So we have a bunch of Detroit Red Wings news and a big suspension handed out in the NHL today. Let's tune into it here, because I thought that a lot of these stories were a bit smaller, so combining them into one video makes a little bit of sense. Plus, the Toronto angle, I think, is sorta, not really something we need to dive too deeply into, but still. Let's go in chronological order here. So, we had ourselves some Red Wings news that took the league by storm earlier this morning, because the Red Wings today ended up placing Jack Campbell on waivers. Now, I'll be honest, I saw a lot of people freaking out about this in a really big capacity, although I don't really know if I understand why. A lot of people were talking about football and Detroit Lions stuff. I don't really understand what is going on there. Actually, let's go ahead and Google that. Oh, there is a Jack Campbell on the Detroit Lions. That is really, really strange, because there also is a Jack Campbell on the Detroit Red Wings who was placed onto waivers today. Yeah, okay. How crazy is that, eh? And it's Sunday, it's Sunday afternoon. No wonder people were going out there and freaking out about the news that Detroit has put Jack Campbell on waivers. What a way for Elliot Friedman to go out there and phrase it. Like, oh, why is Friedman going out there and breaking some big news in the footballs? What? I thought he was talking about hockey. But anyways, this is actually a pretty good sign for Jack Campbell, the goaltender, of course, the former Oiler and the current Red Wings guy, because Campbell entered the NHL's Players Assistance Program on October 4th, and he has been there ever since. He has not played a game yet in the 2024-2025 season. He will be placed on waivers with the intention of sending him over to Grand Rapids, so he'll probably be able to get some starts going over there. He'll probably find himself a role splitting some time with Sebastian Cossa, and hopefully getting his career back on track. Jack Campbell last season had an .873 save percentage in 5 games played with the Oilers, a terrible start to the year. He had a .918 save percentage in the Bakersfield Condors system, though, capped off by an .857 in the one playoff game he had also in the AHL. So Jack Campbell, after a really good stint in Toronto where he was the number one guy, he was unstoppable for a brief period in 2021. He ended up falling off really hard in Edmonton. He got paid a bunch of money. He wasn't worth it. He stopped playing well. And even though there were segments throughout his Oilers days that were really strong, like in the playoffs in 2022-2023, or I should just say 2023, yeah, the first-round series that the Oilers had against the Golden Knights, he had a .961 save percentage in 4 games and a .102 goals against average. However, while those numbers might look great, you have to acknowledge that he was 1-0-0. This is because a lot of those games he played in relief. He wasn't technically the main guy in those discussions. So, yeah, even the sample sizes, it looks a little bit good, but still. Stuart Skinner was the guy for a while, and Jack Campbell just was never able to get his feet going underneath him in Edmonton. Hopefully it's different with the Grand Rapids Griffins. I don't foresee any sort of a comeback story here. I don't really think Jack Campbell is going to dominate the AHL and then find himself in Detroit, and he's going to challenge Cam Talbot or Alex Lyon for a top spot on the Red Wings. I don't really think that's going to happen here. I don't really know if he has the mental capacity to be able to handle that as well, which sounds like really bad to say about somebody, but sometimes it's yeah, you can definitely tell Jack Campbell's probably one biggest detriment to his overall game is his mental, that he can be very talented, that when he is on, his positions are locked, he's got good reflexes, he can control rebounds, he can see through screens, he is a good goalie when he's feeling it. But when he's not feeling it, oh boy, everything goes wrong, and that's kind of why the Vancouver Canucks were able to torch the hell out of Jack Campbell at the beginning of last season, and it's kind of why he got sent down to the AHL. You can tell based off of his language, too. Just the way that he would speak to the media and always blame himself. Overly blaming himself. The guy's mental pressure is probably some of the strongest I've seen out of some of these players that get interviewed. So obviously you hope that that's something that he can work on. But at the same time, it doesn't really spell well for a team like Detroit that is not really great defensively, doesn't really give the best support to their goaltenders, and is not really all too great up front, at least on a consistent day-to-day basis anyway. Speaking about defense, there are some other Red Wings notes that I wanted to go out there and talk about. We had ourselves this article published on ProHockeyRumors.com, Snapshots, Wild, Perez, Edvinsson, and Rasmussen. Of course, the last idea that's talked about in this article goes out there with some Red Wing stuff. Forward Michael Rasmussen and defenseman Simon Edvinsson are both expected to return to the lineup on Monday. Per the Detroit Free Press Helene St. James, both players sat out in the team's Saturday night loss to the LA Kings. Michael Rasmussen has found a role in Detroit's bottom six, recording 4 points through 16 games this season. Edvinsson has proven far more impactful, usually serving as the go-to partner for Star Wings defender Moritz Seider. Edvinsson has 6 points in 16 games this season, putting him on pace for 30 points in his rookie year. Now, you can say that Edvinsson hasn't necessarily had maybe the best season possible, especially when you compare it to Moritz Seider, but he has been very good. You also do have to remember that when Moritz Seider debuted with the Red Wings in, 2019-20? No, 21-22, excuse me. When he did that, he was playing on the top power play already. He got himself those minutes because there was really nobody else to go out there and get that spot. So Seider was thrusted into a top spot on the team really quickly. Edvinsson, while he does get those minutes, he doesn't necessarily get the power play time, especially since Seider is still there, and he's been getting those minutes too. They also have Erik Gustafsson, who can share the load, who was also tried out in a top power play capacity earlier on in his tenure. So obviously, point production-wise, you might want to see a bit more out of Simon Edvinsson, but he has been looking pretty good, and he's been showing off the past few weeks here why he was a top prospect and why he's deserving of that spot. Heading into the long term, of course, you got to think about it. Edvinsson's 21, Seider's 23, so these guys got a lot of leeway to grow. And for Michael Rasmussen to see him back, obviously, he's had maybe better days, Rasmussen has, but he has still been a pretty good physical force in the bottom six of the Detroit Red Wings. He's on pace for a lot fewer points this season compared to years past, but even if he doesn't score many points, as long as he's able to use his body, be physical, and stand up for the guys when need be, I think there is a spot for Rasmussen on this team. Now, speaking about being physical and standing up for guys on your team, let's go over to the final story that I wanted to talk about in today's video. It's the Toronto Maple Leafs and Ryan Reaves, because the NHL's Department of Player Safety has suspended Ryan Reaves for 5 games for an illegal check to the head against Edmonton's Darnell Nurse. Now, we don't need to go into an entire 8-minute diatribe as to why this is good and everything, because Ryan Reaves deserved it. Probably he could have deserved a bit more, to be honest. I think 5 is a little bit lenient, but when you think about it, I mean, some of the other hits were a little bit lenient too. I thought that the Tanner Jeannot hit on Brock Besser should have been more than 3. Ryan Reaves, though, on the hit against Darnell Nurse, you could definitely see it coming from yesterday's results. Darnell, by the way, has been fantastic in the past few weeks or so. I know a lot of people like to talk crap about him and his contract, and while I won't dispute that he is overpaid, man, has Darnell Nurse been cooking the past little while, so I'm personally very devastated to see him out. I have him on my fantasy team. He was one of my keepers this year. Yeah, he was on my keeper list because my team that I took over was so bad last year, but Darnell has been fantastic the past little while, scoring some goals, getting hits, getting block shots, but Ryan Reaves takes him out with just a devastating hit to the head, and ultimately you hope for Darnell's health to be still in check and in balance, but for Ryan Reaves, you could have given this guy more. Just saying. I will also say that a lot of Leafs fans are talking about how this doesn't really, I don't know if I want to say like, doesn't really do anything to the Toronto Maple Leafs, because Reaves hasn't really been too effective at doing anything aside from being a physical dude. I mean, there are some Leafs fans in the replies to this video on the NHL Department of Player Safety's Twitter account saying, oh yeah, I wanted more. Like, it seems like taking Reaves out of the lineup is a good thing in some Maple Leafs fans' eyes. I don't know. You can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about that entire dynamic. Not necessarily the suspension or the hit, but like how Leafs fans are responding to that. And also, I do think it's interesting to make this video in the way that we have, because now that I think about it, Jack Campbell is relative to both Edmonton and Toronto. Of course, Detroit as well, because he's on that team. Ryan Reaves and Darnell Nurse is an Edmonton-Toronto thing, and then the Detroit Red Wings conversation happened at the beginning. Yeah, this is kind of a perfect video, thematically speaking at least, so let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you're a Wings fan, how do you feel about Jack Campbell getting placed on waivers? This will be to assign him to the AHL, not because the Wings are hoping that he gets claimed or anything. If he does get claimed, then okay, wow. No way it's going to happen, but wow. Thoughts in the comment section below about Campbell, Rasmussen, Edvinsson, as well as Ryan Reaves and the suspension. I hope you enjoyed this video. 99, and bye.